Welcome to Green Ball Spotlight. My name's Craig Easdown. This is a series of shows on the good work on and off the field of clubs around Ireland. And today we're going to Roland Bradley at Laois Cricket Club. Welcome, Roland.
Good morning, Craig. You're very welcome to the wilds of County Laois, where we are the only cricket club in the county. So you're very welcome to come and see us.
Now, the bio on your club's Twitter account starts with the Midlands' leading club. Can you tell us a little bit about the club and some of the more prominent players that have come through over the years?
Well, the club is in existence in its current form for about 35 years, and we've been quite successful. We have got to 4 Senior 2 finals, winning 2. We have got to the final of the National Cup, being beaten by Rush. And we have also, with our various 3 teams, have won cups and leagues all the way from minor up to Senior 2. So on the playing field, we have been quite successful. We have also won quite a number of Midland Cups and Dick O'Neill Cups, which are the local competition, and we feel it's very important to keep Midland cricket running.
Absolutely. And how does the club look today? How many teams do you have? What leagues are you in? What programs do you run?
Well, we're after going from being quite strong on the field to becoming relatively weak. Now, that has happened for various reasons. With many things, quite a few people have left the club for various reasons over the last couple of years, which have weakened it. But we are now starting to get players back. We have gone from being a Division 3 side to being a Division 8 side. But that will repair itself. These are just natural things that happen in any club, and it doesn't matter what you are, whether you're cricket or rugby or whatever else it is. So we are in a weak position with our first team. We have 3 men's teams, or what we would call adults at the present time. We're working strong on getting a youth side going with our youth coach, Jonathan Walsh, and hopefully down the road we'll revert back to a women's team, which we used to have for years.
Now, one of the more fascinating stories about Laois is you've moved to a new ground. This in itself is quite a story in itself. Can you tell us about the journey to creating your new home?
Well, if I start from the beginning of the club was formed about 50 years ago in Tullamore and played under the Midland Cricket Club. It folded, and a chap by the name of Trevor Wardrop from Portarlington brought it to his farm, where he played for 1 year. A couple of chaps from Port Laois Rugby Club came over to play cricket, saw where they were playing and invited them to the rugby club. That is about 35 years ago. And we spent 33 very comfortable years in the rugby club. And for various reasons, there was a falling out. Not anybody's fault in particular, but these things happen in clubs. And we were forced into a position that we knew we had to leave the rugby club. And at that stage, we approached the county council, where we really got nowhere. We then also went to the Board of Works, which is an interesting one, because in Emo Park, which is a well-known spot, Chamley Harrison, who used to own it, had a cricket grounds there. Again, we got nowhere. Our president, Thomas Cosby, came up with a piece of ground in Stradbally called the Abbey, which, putting it mildly, had potential, but was a jungle when we went to it. And that's where we are.
I think you undersell yourself with the story there, because you won an award for the project, I believe.
When Tom and I had to make the decision, really, and it was us made it, what would we do? And we decided to go and build this grounds. Then we became slightly driven. So it was like a bit like building Darby's house. It just became, I was after retiring from business, and we had a very good team around us of 3 guys that were carpenters and various other things. Tom provided all the machinery we needed, from tractors and diggers and that. And then we called in every favor that we could. And we have built a fantastic cricket ground from scratch. The interesting side, I think, that it's probably North County were the last people to build a dedicated cricket ground in Leinster. Mm-hmm. There are lots of cricket grounds in Leinster, but they're mostly community-based or sharing with someone, and they've all become new. But I think previous to us, North County were the last. Now, we have no ambitions to be a North County. We just see ourselves as a small little junior club, but we have a beautiful cricket grounds. We became aware that Texaco, because of COVID, Texaco were going to give out 26 awards, 1 to each county for various sports. And it was called Support for Sport. And we the idea was that you did a 30-second video. You weren't allowed to have any people in it, and it did a 250-word written submission. We were kept it quite low-key because we felt if we were the only cricket club in Ireland that entered, we had a very good chance. And so we didn't share our knowledge with Cricket Leinster or with Cricket Ireland. We didn't that was the way it was. And we were very lucky that we actually won the award for County Laois, and we happened to be a cricket club. Sorry, and it's also 5K, which came in very useful when you're digging a hole in the ground.
Absolutely. Well deserved, I'm sure. Well deserved for all who are involved. Onto the club in the local area. Who is, you said you're the only Laois cricket club, but who is your main local rival, would you consider?
Right. If I go back just slightly before that, I was Midland secretary for about 21 or 2 years. It is now run by Philip Deacon, who does a wonderful job, and Jonathan Walsh, keeping Midland cricket going. And in that period of time, I saw somewhere between 8 and 10 clubs disappearing. Not all my fault, but they did disappear. We now have new clubs reappearing. Carlow, which is an old cricket club, has disappeared several times. It's back and playing. We now have Slieve Bloom, it was in Kinnetty, has moved, I gather, now to Ballyegan to join up with them. So they would be on one side with Bagnallstown, Mullingar, Knockharley, North Kildare, Halverstown. So there's a good coverage of rural clubs. It probably needs more, but there is a coverage of rural clubs there, and it's quite strong.
And the club itself, how many coaches or volunteers do you have running the club?
This would perhaps be our weakest point. We have 3 or 4 qualified coaches in the club. And on the youth side, unfortunately, Jonathan Walsh is very much on his own and needs help. We have about 60% of our members are from the Asian community, and we are trying very hard to get some of these people involved in coaching, because there is a great wealth of talent there with young people. It's just to get them out, and that we have also built 2 fantastic practice nets, as good as there are in Ireland, and they are on our grounds. So we have no reason. We have all the kit: slip hatchers, bowling machines, nets, the whole lot. All we need is bodies, and that's really what we're looking for.
Are there any particular activities or programs you've run or developed which you've been particularly successful?
Our most successful thing has been, we ran a pub league for a number of years, which involved 9 players, 3 from the cricket club and 6 non-cricketers. And we had 8 teams in it. And that was where we got many local players to play cricket. And for instance, we had Christy Dunphy, Mickey Sullivan, 2 Laois hurlers playing cricket. And they all came out of the pub league. And we would have actually probably had more people at a pub league final than you'd sometimes have had at a senior cup final in Leinster. And we got 2 wet summers following each other, and both of those killed the pub league. Yeah. Now, we're hoping to resurrect that in Stradbally.
Fantastic. And what has been the best innovation for small clubs in recent years, to your mind?
Without a doubt, artificial pitches, call them what you like, mats. That has been the huge game changer for the small clubs. I'm not talking about the large championship or premiership clubs. They all have the wherewithal to do the work. But the small clubs cannot produce pitches. And if you're going to play cricket, it has to be safe. And you can come along and put down an artificial pitch, which is properly laid, and it leaves the bounce safe, everything's safe, and youths can play at adult cricket and leave it in a very safe place. Without a doubt, artificial pitches. And if you look around Leinster, I would suggest that a very, very high percentage of cricket is now played at the lower levels on artificial pitches. We all strive to have grass pitches, and we have put 3 grass pitches into Stradbally. But the amount of work involved in producing those, where it's so easy to come out and put your stumps in and play. Once people maintain the artificials, they must be watered and they must be rolled. The mistake is made, they're often just left there, but they must be properly maintained. And once that's done, that's the #1 plus for small clubs.
And you were the first president of Cricket Leinster from outside Dublin. How did you find that role and the exposure, and what did you learn from that time that maybe you brought back to Midlands cricket?
Well, I probably didn't bring a lot back to Midlands cricket because I left Midlands cricket and spent 4 or 5 years out of it when I was involved. And at that stage in Cricket Leinster, it was volunteers. And when you were president, you were also chairman, where we have now changed in Leinster that we have a board of directors and we have paid administrators. But at that stage, it was purely all volunteers, bar the development officers. We had full-time paid development officers. It was a most fantastic, wonderful experience. And I enjoyed, I would say, 99.9% of it. It was very difficult for me coming from a junior club to realize at one stage that you were the boss, and then you had to be very careful. But there was fantastic people with me and people that gave me advice and looked after me. And my hand was held going through it for the first year, which made life very, very simple. But it was a wonderful experience. And it was something that, I was so proud of doing, but it brought a lot of pride to the Midlands and the Southeast and the country clubs that, let's say, one of their own was involved in this job. But it was great fun. I really enjoyed it.
And finally, you mentioned their development officer. The recent news is there's a Midlands development officer been appointed by Cricket Leinster. Will that be a help to cricket in the Midlands?
Yes, it will. That will be a huge help to all of the clubs that are in the Midlands, particularly once we have a development officer that goes in and works in the clubs as well, so that can spot where clubs are going wrong, advise them and guide them, because it's mostly what the clubs need is they need guidance and help. And this has been a wonderful thing to happen for Midland cricket.
Well, very good. Thank you very much for joining us today, Roland.
You are very welcome, and I hope you enjoyed your trip to Laois.
And good luck with the season ahead. Farewell.